I will share my own CPF roadmap for those in their 20s and 30s. And I want to make this video is because many people they see my CPF video, then they see, how is it possible leh? Then at the same time, this guy is reaching FIRE? Sure not. So for the record, I've reached my CPF full retirement sum in a special account at the age of 30. Back then, it was $192,000, and I'm still on track for my FIRE/Ikigai goal at 1 million USD by 35. So it's very important to highlight that both CPF and FIRE are not mutually exclusive. You can do them both together. And I know that CPF policies can change and they will change with time, but the fundamentals do not change. So what you have to do is just to adjust numbers based on your own expectation, and you may reach it earlier or even later than others. That is fine. You just have to compare with yourself 1 to 5 years ago. Okay, don't compare with other people. But sure, if you have further questions, then welcome to join our Telegram group of over 21,000 members talking about CPF and enhancing their retirement life at Honey Money SG Telegram. Let's talk about the first stage when you are starting out your full-time career in mid-20s. Okay, or early 20s for the females. I think the most important priority at that age is to get a full-time job with full-time income, because at this age you should stop looking for temporary contract or part-time positions already. You really need something to have a strong base, a strong foundation for you to venture to other stuff. Otherwise, if you're a business owner or you already have a hustle going on during your school days, your university days, then yes, you can do that instead of a full-time job. But let's be realistic, because most people are not business owners, freelancers, and self-employed. Yeah, so I think the more practical way is to get a full-time job first. Then with that full-time job, you expand your skills and work on a side hustle. Keep the normal contributions of CPF mandatory contributions. Okay, there's really nothing much you need to do. Just let the work contributions of CPF flow in and deduct from your income, right? Your own 20% CPF and the employer's 17%. Just keep it. Okay, there's nothing you can do anyway. Now, once you reach above $60,000 per annum of income, that is where you want to start looking at tax strategies, because you're now in a 7% income tax bracket. And some of you may argue that this is too low, 7% is nothing to save, but that's where we digress, okay? Because I started looking at tax strategies once I hit 7%. So you may have your own number and your own target, that is fine. Okay, we don't have to agree with each other, just that this is what I did for my mid-20s. All right, just focus on making at least $60,000 per year, then you can start looking at tax strategies. So moving on, after the mid-20s will be the late 20s. This is when you're probably 27 to 30. I want you to start looking at your first property for your own stay. All right, so this is where people start to look for partners, or already have a stable relationship and talking about marriage already. Okay, hopefully you can get a BTO. Okay, if not, you could get a HDB resale flat. Some of you can afford private condominiums. That is fine also, depending on your budget. But what is most important is that you have to secure this property. Because once you secure that property, either by signing the ODP or what, then you can set the foundation that this is the amount of CPF OA I will use for the next few months and the next few years. Okay, because once you have a clear target of how much CPF OA you need to use, you will then set your direction to what you need to do. And maybe even before that, you will have started to look at CPF tax strategies like the voluntary contribution to MediSave account or retirement sum top up to the special account. Okay, there's a combined limit cap of $8,000 of tax relief per year, so don't over contribute, just contribute $8,000 either to VCMA or RSTU depending on your preference. Okay, I know that in the past I did it quite differently because there was no $8,000 cap. It was $7,000 for RSTU, and then it was up to the BHS level for VCMA, right? So I could top up more than $8,000 per year to the MediSave account. But that's already past news. We cannot change the law and policy. Just stick to this $8,000 cap. And if you're earning good income, $8,000 per year is really not a lot, right? I think it may be even less than 10% of your annual income for some of you high earners. So the next step during your late 20s is really to work towards that $102,000 annual income. Okay, whether you are in a sales or commission role, or if you add in your side hustles, you can add up to 102,000. I think that's good because that's the maximum CPF annual limit that will maximize the contributions. This $102,000 will consist of the ordinary wage and additional wage. Okay, I will not bore you with the details, but just try to hit 102,000 because your CPF annual contribution limit is capped at 37% of 102,000, which makes it $37,740. This is when you can have the max CPF contribution. Now, coming to your early 30s stage, there really isn't much difference compared to late 30s, but probably now you have a higher income and you know what property you're going for already. So you will know that how much CPF OA you will need to commit either for down payment, mortgage payments and all that. Because if you chose a very affordable option like a HDB BTO, then you look at this monthly mortgage payments and you have set aside a significant amount in your CPF OA. The rest can do what? For example, you can transfer OA to SA or you can consider to invest the CPF OA. Now, usually I don't recommend beginners to go and invest their CPF OA because the era of high interest rates and T-bill use are over. So at that age of late 20s to early 30s, it depends on how long you have been investing because most people, they discover their personal finance quite late on. Not everyone can discover their personal finance nature by 18 to 21 or even during university. So your investment maturity may not be there. You know, you're still chasing all the very shiny things like crypto, okay, like all the high growth stocks because you just want to 10x your returns as heard by other creators around this space. So without this investment maturity, you may want to take like uncompensated risks. Investment is definitely more about risk management and emotions management more than all these financial numbers and data. You want to dabble in all the high growth stuff because you believe your investment thesis or your trading thesis is correct, use cash, okay? Don't meddle with CPF. Once you have been out in the market for long, you will realize that 4% per annum on your special account, okay, almost risk-free, is very hard to beat. And it gives you a peace of mind that, okay, this government secured asset is giving 4% year over year, which is why I recommend for those people who are not very savvy with investing and you have excess OA, don't start to go and invest, okay? You can transfer from OA to SA to get 4% first, okay? Meanwhile, work on your investment risk appetite. You know what you're doing and you can manage the risk. Then yes, you can stop the OA to SA transfer and then go and invest your OA. And usually by the time you have the investment maturity and transfer OA to SA enough, you would have reached the full retirement sum in the special account alone, which was what I reached at age 30. But some of you may reach it later because of the new policy. You may reach it in mid 30, late 30 or even early 40s. That doesn't matter. What matters most is you know what you're doing and you can accept what you're doing. Because I can assure you, this journey is not easy. If you are into CPF, there will be many naysayers telling you why you're so stupid to pump so much money into CPF. Why you transfer OA to SA? So stupid one, huh? Don't use it for buying property, the biggest property you can afford. Hiya. So tune out the noise if you really want to set your eyes on building your CPF for retirement as a basis, because that was what I did before I went on my offense for FIRE. So once you reach FRS already, full retirement sum, that is when you can start to look to invest your CPF OA. Or, you know, you can start investing if you really have the sense already. Then my choice of platform to invest CPF OA is through Poems. Poems is currently my cheapest option to invest in low cost unit trust like a monthly funds, okay, which tracks the so active GBS US large and mid cap index, similar to S&P 500, so it's like broadly diversified. I do not want to invest in a single stock using CPF. I mean, I could use cash on individual stocks, but not with CPF. So unless you are really familiar with all these individual stock picks, okay, for example, you like banks, you like REITs for Singapore, you can use CPF to invest through Poems as well. But my general suggestion is to always go for broad-based diversified index funds so that you can focus your times on other things. Because individual stocks, you will need like all the research, the reports, and read financial report news, okay, analyze the numbers, analyze the CEO, analyze the management, so many things to do, okay, so much time. Also, don't use CPF to pick individual stocks. You can use cash, right? Okay, don't risk your CPF for further higher risk on concentration. Just to be clear, this video is also not sponsored at all. So if you want to support the content, you can click on this interactive brokers thing or scan the QR code. Okay, IBKR is one of the best place to use your cash to invest. Yeah, so support right away. Thank you. So coming to late stage, right, like mid 30s, okay, you have secured your first own stay property. You have reached your FRS. So what is next? I think that is where you can look at your excess OA. If you really want to stop investing, can you look at buying a second property? or if some of you decouple, right? So you have an access name that is not charged with ABSD, even if you buy a second property. That is even if you are interested in investing in property in Singapore. So that is when you can then unlock your CPF OA investments if you need it for a higher down payment to hit your property investing goals. So that's different for people to people. Some of you may not be interested in property investing, then you all may continue to do your CPF OA investing to build wealth for the long term. But otherwise, I feel that it is also an okay option to diversify into something other than equity markets and unit trust, right? You need something as a form of diversification of your assets. Then a second property may be what you are looking for. Of course, that is not for everyone because Singapore property prices are like all-time high. And you know, the government is just introducing more measures to cool off the property market. So if property investing is not for you, then carry on your CPF OA investing. Just don't leave it idle. For 2.5%, I think you can do so much more. But if you're really uncomfortable with that, then I guess just staying in 2.5% OA for those of you who want a peace of mind is fair enough. But if you really want to learn like how to invest your CPF OA, I can really show you my result for the past 4 years of investing my CPF OA in this video right here.